Hey guys, one of the Mediocre commentators here, and I know that Top Gun Maverick came out a couple weeks ago, and there's just all these raving reviews about it, but I finally got to see it this past weekend. I got to see it in IMAX. There was only like one showing, but I was able to go see it. This film has a lot riding on it, more than if I would have saw it opening weekend, because of the critical response has been built up. I think it's got like a 97, 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. Audience score is like 99. So my expectations have actually been built up more and more. I don't have that much nostalgia for the previous Top Gun movie. It's not something that I'm like, oh, that's something that's awesome. That's the greatest thing I've ever seen. I mean, it's just a fun action movie. I mean, I don't think Tom Cruise is the greatest man to ever live.
Psychiatry is a pseudoscience.
But Tom, if she said that this particular thing helped her feel better, whether it was the antidepressant or going to a counselor or a
Sure has some interesting thoughts on some things.
this
No,
was
no,
not
Matt,
against
Matt,
her
I'm
will,
ask-
though.
Matt, I'm
But
ask-
this wasn't
Matt, I'm
against
asking you a
Brooke's will.
question. Matt, I'm asking you a question.
I understand.
I was excited to see this, but I wasn't like, I need to see it. That's why I didn't go out to see it. But I heard all these great reviews, so I figured I would check it out, and I figured I'd let you guys know what I thought about the movie. Top Gun Maverick might possibly be the best movie to come out in 2022. I know it's a stretch, but it really has everything a sequel would need, especially a sequel like this that is to a movie that came out, I think, like 35, 36 years ago. It's crazy how much spectacle there is and how much there is to love in this film. This movie blew me away in almost every sense of the word. The flashy spectacle, the great characters, the emotions that are riding high. Most of all the suspense in every action scene in the film is near perfection. I mean, you're tense and you're just stressed out. Are they going to make it out? Because I honestly didn't know. I feel like they could kill off Tom Cruise or Miles Teller or whoever else was in the film. It invokes that sense of fear in an action movie that you really want, and not in something like the Fast and Furious movies. You know they're gonna be okay. I mean, I think Dwayne the Rock Johnson, it says in his contract like he can't lose in like a fight. I'm pretty sure. Same thing with Jason Statham. Like you know they're gonna be okay. It's just a crazy fun action movie. In this movie, the emotions are riding high, and Tom Cruise probably gives one of his best performances I've ever seen, at least since like A Few Good Men or something like that, because he really gives it his all. The way he's talking to these new recruits in the movie, you really feel like Tom Cruise is the Maverick. He is Maverick. Like he really is that character. Also, I feel like the world in this movie is built so realistic, and everything that happens in this movie feels real. Like you feel what happened in 1986 happened in 1986. And Tom Cruise's character has just lived through all these years working in the same spot because he doesn't want to move on, because he wants to stay in that field. And also it feels realistic because like the big bad of this movie is never really revealed to be like the Russians or the Nazis or evil business corporate guys. It's just, we got to take this out. And that's not the focus of the movie. The focus of the movie is trying to get the team together to take them out. And the reason behind taking them out isn't the focus. The focus is the conflict between the characters like Miles Teller and Tom Cruise's characters, or Ed Harris's military character, or the different characters that collide with Tom Cruise. And Val Kilmer's Iceman gets to shine a little bit in this movie. I'll talk about that in a minute. But like the conflict and the conversations these characters are having are probably the best part of the film for me. The action in this film is probably the main highlight for me because Tom Cruise seems to be in the actual airplane. It's like, wow, it really seems like they're up there and that Miles Teller's up in the plane. And then I look at it later, I'm like, oh, they actually were up in the plane. They actually were doing that. They trained so they could go up there in the planes with them. I saw it was like $11,000 an hour, and to be in one of the planes. And that there's some points in the movie, like near the beginning, when a plane flies over this small little roof, the roof kind of pops off for a second. That wasn't meant to pop off. It just did, and they just left it in the movie. Like it, this feels like a proper sequel. It feels like a real movie because everything in this movie is actually real. The sounds of these planes and jets also is just, it sounds awesome. The sound design. I feel I could watch this movie with my eyes closed and it would still be just as powerful. It's so great the way that they make these jet engines sound, and the guns and the missiles and the explosions, the way they crash and hit the dirt, or it's just all fantastic. Along with the music in the film, I mean, It's a Top Gun movie, so it's gonna have a great soundtrack, but still, the sound design, it was just fantastic. And back to the tension, you always feel like these pilots are at risk, and it really was stressing me out during the movie. It was really powerful, especially with Tom Cruise and Teller's characters, because they go into the final dogfight not knowing if they'll come home. And Tom Cruise's character throughout this entire film is, we're getting them to do the mission and come home. I mean that, and the military guys just want them to do the mission, but Maverick has to know that they'll come home because of what happened to Bradshaw back in the original film. The film may be a little cheesy in parts, but it never uses the cheesiness too much. It uses it to its advantages, like they're playing flag football on the beach, or like Miles Teller is singing Great Balls of Fire. Val Kilmer, again, has the best scene in the movie when him and Tom Cruise are talking in his office. I won't give it away, but it was quite emotional because of what has happened to the actual Val Kilmer, and how they handle it in this movie is perfect. And Tom Cruise, that's probably one of his best scenes in the movie, and Val Kilmer shines in that scene in the movie. It's fantastic. If anything, if you're a fan of Val Kilmer and Tom Cruise in the original Top Gun, go to this movie and just watch that scene, because that scene is perfect. That is a perfect scene. And the movie doesn't hold back. There's one scene in this movie that made me a little teary-eyed. I'm sorry, but I didn't think Top Gun Maverick would make me emotional at all. I mean, I'm a cold-hearted bastard when it comes to these things, and Top Gun Maverick almost made me cry. I had to wipe a small tear, but I did not cry. I was getting teary-eyed though, and it's amazing, and I commend the film for doing that. The only real flaw I would say I have with this movie, it is kind of predictable. You know where the story's gonna go and where it's gonna end. It might fake you out a couple times, but you kind of know where these characters are gonna go. How it unfolds and how the characters interact off each other is what makes this movie so special. I would highly recommend you go see Top Gun Maverick if you haven't already. So I'm sure you have. It's gonna make like $1 billion or something like that. Overall, I would say Top Gun Maverick is a 9 out of 10. And one of the best films I've seen this year. Go ahead and check out our other videos. I got a few more coming. Have some videos next week for you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.